A bloody battle, many people dead, the earth on fire. I thought I would never, ever feel so powerless again, thought the unknown man. The next moment, someone tossed someone to the side, and that person in turn thrashed on the ground, making lurching sounds. It was a guy who was covered in blood. Exhausted, he couldn't do anything, he could barely move with very bad breath. Hitting his back against a rock, he put his head down. Exhaling, the battered hero thought, I've been reasoning, this time it will be different. But still, how will it end? He got up with these thoughts. In front of him he saw a huge monster. This monster was very huge, its head was like a crocodile, its teeth about the same. It was all wrapped up in intense fire. And then he remembered a moment from his childhood. Mum, said the little hero, looking at this monster eating people, and his mum was right below the creature. Mum! He shouted, crying amidst the ruins. And then he saw that the monster had taken his mum in its teeth. Remembering how his parents died, he uttered, what the other idiots said was right. Someone who's as clueless as me won't be able to accomplish anything no matter what I do, no matter what they do, the hero said as he stood up from the ground, leaning on his bloody arm. If I dedicate my life to training, I can only reach B rank. What to speak of S rank? And I won't even be able to reach A rank, he shouted, raising his heavy sword, preparing to take the monster's blow. Upon seeing the hero, the monster began to growl. Do you know why that is? Asked the main character angrily. It's because I'm an idiot. I won't give up, even in a difficult situation like this, he said, pointing his sharp blade at the creature. By that, you won't get out of here alive either, the hero shouted, jumping straight at the monster, which had already opened its mouth preparing to swallow him in a volley. In flight, he swung his sword. There was madness in his eyes. And then the hero with great force stabs the sword into the monster's head, and begins to cut it. But suddenly the hero is pushed back by some wave from the wound he made to the creature. And as the hero fell from the monster, it roared in pain, and a fountain of blood spurted from it. As he fell, the protagonist thought, because he no longer had the strength to speak, I can't use my arm anymore. He looked at his bloody, scratched, battered arm. But still, it looks like I took a very serious blow, the hero continued to reason as he looked at the monster screaming in pain. There's a chance, he said, preparing to jump on the creature again. He did so, starting to scatter to jump. The protagonist jumped again onto the head of the beast, which had a sword sticking out of its head. The hero took it with his teeth, and finished what he started. The monster's roar could be heard thousands of kilometers away. The monster looked at the protagonist with fear. This will end now, said the hero, summoning some kind of blue light, causing blood to start flowing from his eye. A huge blue force, which is very much like ordinary water, knocked down the wounded monster, as well as the protagonist. In place of the sword in the mouth of the protagonist just washed away, this water washed away everything in its path, trees, rocks. And then when this wave calmed down, the hero was thrown to the ground in an unknown place. Turns out there was a dead monster lying next to him on a pool of blood. Ha 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 ha! The hero, lying down, started laughing hysterically at the same time crying. Good! Now pay attention to me, said the unknown man standing in front of the crowd of people. I have to tell you this before we leave town. You've all seen the latest news, haven't you? Said the man addressing the protagonist. You mean the horrible humanoid monster? He asked, with a surprised look. From what I heard, it can turn into a mummy with a human, and can suck all the mana out. The people in the crowd were talking amongst themselves. And I heard that there was an incident in Sunbukgu recently, said an unknown girl with horror in her voice. That's right. There are a lot of people talking about it, so everyone be careful. Especially you, said the man in the red jumper to the protagonist. Jin Suho. I'm telling you specifically, be careful, repeated the man in the red jacket. Right, sir, replied the hero while the crowd looked at him with a scornful stare. You are not offended by my words, are you? You're only a B-rank hunter after all, that's why I'm so worried about you," he said, mocking the protagonist while he didn't know how to respond to his words, paralleling his head down. "I heard you were a good student in the past," said the man in the red jacket in a whisper. "Not always," replied Jin. "Don't be so modest. I heard that you went to the best elite academy in our country and were the best of the best," he said in a mocking voice. "It's very wonderful that someone intelligent and outstanding will go to the dungeon with us. Does everyone agree with that?" mocked the hero, the man in the red jacket, and he was apparently in charge of them. Hearing this, Jin clenched his fist in anger, but never struck. "How did I get to this point? The best of the best, Cadet Jin Suho," thought the hero with anger at his life. "Firstly, I thought I was a talent." Jin began to reminisce about his life as he recalled his awards. "I thought I could avenge my parents by gaining knowledge, and I planned to gain even more," as he continued to remember how he was presented with certificates, medals, and other things, in front of a very large audience, standing on a stage. "But," Jin said, remembering how he had cried over something, "it doesn't matter how hard it's done, it's an unattainable copyright tier for me," looking with shocked eyes sometime in the past. "It's like having a door barricaded in front of me and telling me that this is my limit." He looked at the people who go further in their power and ranks. "Whenever fate humiliated me, I consoled myself by saying to myself," he said as he looked at his status B rank, level 26 Jin Suho. After which, he continued speaking. "However, in the end, at this point, I'm given to feeling and remembering about this limit," continued Jin. "All right, everyone follow me. Jin Suho, you move too," the man in the red jacket began to say, continuing to taunt the hero. "I hope you won't be a burden to us," he said with a nasty man-snide smile, turning the men against Jin. "But now, none of that matters," the hero said in his head. "Why am I so obsessed with going to dungeons, despite the others underestimating me and looking down on me from on high?" he continued. "It's probably because I still have a goal of revenge, and my stubbornness refuses to recognize its own limits," said Jin, watching a group of people enter the red porta-potty that leads into the cave. "Let's go inside," said the head of the crowd. "I'm not helping myself in any way by being underestimated and labeled the best of the worst." And then the protagonist walks into the portal and immediately hears heartbreaking screams. After seeing this, he was shocked. There were pools of blood on the ground. Everyone was screaming and begging for help while the hero couldn't understand what was going on here. "The chance of a portal to Armageddon appearing is 0.210,000%, thought Jin looking at the horrible sight. "Help me!" shouted one guy who was at the paw of some monster. And the next moment he was crushed that even his arm flew off. But next to him was still lying, almost dead man. He was making grunting sounds of pain. He was lying in a pool of blood. Jin spotted him, and it turned out to be the man who had taunted the hero. "Help me!" he said, choking on the blood. And the protagonist looked at him with a smile, hinting that he wasn't going to help. "Still, we are in Armageddon," said the hero, convinced of what was happening before his eyes. "This is the same monster that took my mother's life a few years ago," he said as he looked at the crocodile-headed creature. "That's exactly why," he began to say as the blood began to rush through his body. "I don't want to lose this," Jin continued to say as he magically summoned his sword. "Get over here, you bastard!" he shouted to the monster, preparing to attack. Now let's go back to the moment when the protagonist and the monster were carried away from the battle site by a wave. At this time, while the hero was lying in the bran, it began to rain heavily, which fell directly on Jin's wounds and on the dead monster. "Ha!" A chuckle escaped the hero's lips. He then started laughing and crying hysterically, and it wasn't clear if he was crying or if it was just the rain. "What did I just do, and what have I been doing so far?" the hero asked himself, looking at the corpse of the monster. It's not like it's going to bring Mom and Dad back to life, then why did I do it? He continued to pile on the questions, then turned his gaze to the deep wound under the creature's eye. It's not like I wanted to do it unless he said, crying tears mixed with blood. Unless, of course, I got stronger. He finished, almost calming down. And then in an unknown place, with a huge power in the form of some green magic, lies the protagonist. While he was lying unconscious, he was teleported to another place. What, is this guy really my descendant? An unknown voice began to speak, looking at the passed out Jin. Of course I'm not happy about it, but I have no choice, he added, smiling. Then he suddenly opened his eyes. What happened? He asked. Where am I? Continued to ask the hero, looking around. Except for the white fog, Jin saw nothing. Am I dead? He said. Not yet, replied an unknown man with long hair standing behind the hero's back. Jin turned around to see who said that. He was surprised to see someone here. It was a man with long snow-white hair and green eyes. Ancient clothes? The main character thought with surprise. Who are you? He asked the man. Interesting, seeing your insolence. I thought you had lost your mind, said the man with long hair, coming out of the green mist. This man was like a ghost, with a greenish glow that was not natural. You're here, and you don't know who I am? The man asked the hero. Just answer my question, said Jin with aggression, not intending to answer his question. Who are you? Before he could finish, the hero was interrupted by a man who put 2 fingers on Jin's neck. I'm a heavenly demon, he replied nonetheless. And you're my only descendant, said the sky demon, looking at the incomprehensible face of the protagonist. What? The main character asked in surprise. The sky demon. He's known to everyone who loves culture. This, what I thought was a fairy tale character, is otherwise known as Heaven Above Heaven, or the strongest of the strongest. The protagonist recalled the stories he had read in books. Of course, I thought he was a fictional character, and only existed in old fairy tales, he thought as he looked at the sky demon. So the heavenly demon is real? And what does your my only descendant mean? Jin continued to speculate in his head. Ah, well, that's hard to believe, said the demon, as if it could hear what the protagonist was saying. Apparently in your world, Murim and I have become legends. However, it is an undeniable fact that I am your ancestor, and you are my direct descendant, he said in a cheerful voice until Jin didn't know whether to believe him or not. Can you read my mind? The hero asked, to which the demon took notice. That's easy, it's like snapping my fingers for me, he replied, whereupon the main character tensed. A very sinister aura. It's hard to believe, of course, but it doesn't matter how much I think about it, it's definitely not a normal spell or magic, thought Jin, seeing a green, liquid-like aura around his ancestor. Why did you transport me here? The hero asked again. I transported you here? Absurd, he half answered. How much is meat like you worth? He asked Jin. Know your place. The place of an ordinary pathetic creature, the heavenly demon supplemented his words. Then, shouted the protagonist, but he was interrupted by the demon again. I'm here to find another demon, he said. My only serious opponent. My pain in the head. The blood demon, he said, remembering him with aggression on his face. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in this humiliating state. And if I disobey the conduction, will I be turned into a spirit? Heavenly demon began to reason as he laid out his plans. Of course I am concerned. It's even difficult for me to rule this world and find this blood demon, without my own body, he added, after which he had an idea. Right, that should work, the celestial demon started to say with a crazy voice, with an equally crazy voice, turning to Jin. What do you mean? Asked the hero when he noticed the crazed look on his face. You as my descendant, must have a pretty good body quality, said the demon, slowly walking towards the main character, As he approached, he took him by the shoulder. So pass it on to me, said the celestial demon with a snide smile. What? Jin asked. Consider it an honor that I am returning to this earth in your puny body, said the demon. Is this some kind of joke? Why should I give my body to someone like you? Shouted the hero, pushing the ancestor away from him. Just then something immobilized him. It was the green magic of the heavenly demon who used it to take over his body. Have you forgotten your place, nobleman? He asked in a threatening voice. You have no choice, he continued to say, but the next moment he noticed something. You dare to resist my martial arts? Heavenly demon thought, watching as Jin began to move under the influence of magic. What an ominous and very strong energy. It's like it's seeping through my hands, but somehow I don't feel threatened by it, said the hero, looking at the streams of magic flowing into his hands. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like fate isn't on your side, right? Jin said smugly, no longer worriedly looking at the demon. Exhaling, the demon began to remember something. Promise me that you will never harm or hurt anyone who has your blood flowing, said an unknown girl to the sky demon sometime in the past. I'll protect you no matter what it costs me, he answered her, watching her smile. Are these memories again? Sky demon asked himself. What's your name? He turned to Jin now, having stopped summoning his magic. Suho. Jin Suho, replied the hero. Okay, Jin Suho. The demon did the demon a favor. You're arrogant, but I'm offering you the chance of a lifetime, he said, turning to the hero. I don't need it, whatever it is, shouted Jin indignantly. So you lost your family, said the sky demon in a calm and even a little sad voice. It's all because you're weak. He began to press the main character. After these words, he fell silent. You must be repeating that in your head an infinite number of times, right? He asked with a laugh, pointing a finger at him. Would they all have survived if I'd been a little stronger? Would I have been able to protect them, could I? Heavenly Demon said, speaking the words of the protagonist, reminding him of his weakness. But alas, that was all in the past. You must realize that these are very naive thoughts, and they will not return, he continued to say. Stop reading my thoughts. If you don't stop, then I'll kill you, shouted the very angry protagonist. Ha! Now that's our kind of thing. Aggression. Revenge. Began to laugh as the demon laughed, as if that's what he wanted to make Jin angry. Pathetic weak people who can't surpass their normal human capabilities by succumbing to the entreaties of their worthless emotions, and you are no exception, he continued to say as he continued to look at the main character drowning in anger. You tried. And you soon realized it. The limits of your abilities are limited, the heavenly demon said with a sneer. Shut your mouth, shouted Jin, but then he was interrupted again. All right, let's cut to the chase, said the demon. I can get you through your walls, he said in a very serious voice. What? The protagonist asked. I'll do you a favor and tell you, said the demon. The methods taught to the hunters of this world are not suitable for you as my descendant, he continued to say, looking at the misunderstanding hero. You need martial arts, said the sky demon, reminding the hero of his rank and level. That said, the strongest in Murim. Are my arts the heavenly demon's martial arts? Jin asked to himself. Can I become stronger because of it? He continued to ask. Of course you can. Since my martial art is one of the greatest arts of Murim, even an idiot can become stronger, replied the demon. And even more so, it won't be difficult for someone who has my blood flowing, he added. So it would be better if you obediently give up your body. The heavenly demon continued to persuade the protagonist. Will I still be able to become stronger? Jin was already beginning to wonder. No, the hero still changed his mind, remembering the death of his parents. Even then, I don't want to give you my body, Jin refused the demon. You're thinking something else and saying something completely different. How stupid! exhaled, said the sky demon. All right then, I'll give you a test, he said. A test? The protagonist interjected. Pass this test, and I'll train you with my internal energy and cultivation techniques. But if you fail it, I'll take your body, offered his terms the demon. That's not a bad offer for you either, right? So do you agree? He asked. I have the right to refuse this offer, don't I? There's no telling what might happen during this ordeal, thought Jin, not knowing whether to agree or not. But what if this is my only chance to become stronger? The hero continued to doubt, not knowing what to choose. The last chance life has given me, he thought as he looked at his ancestor's outstretched hand. And if it could be true, I don't want to give it up then. He continued to think as his mind went on a showdown between different thoughts. You'll keep your promise, won't you? Jin asked. The honor of my name depends on that promise. Do you really think I who have overcome death will value mere internal energy very much? The heavenly demon said smilingly. Okay. What's the challenge? Agreed and asked the protagonist. First thing first, take one step away from pain and despair, said the demon, putting his hand forward with 2 fingers raised. After these words he snapped his fingers. And then the hero is transported to his own memories. What's going on? He asked, looking at the red mist around him. Mom, said someone from behind the main character. Turning around, he noticed a small self and his mum. My dear Suho, she said. The character amidst all the red mist saw only them. Stay here, okay? Other people will find you later, she continued, crying. Just wait a little bit, understand? His mum asked. Mum, don't leave me here, Mum! Shouted little Jin, while the adult protagonist remembered these moments. Mum, said the little protagonist. Don't go! He shouted, watching her run away. Mum! He shouted as the monster came towards her. And the next moment he ate her. And this was seen by all versions of Jin, both small and adult. I had a feeling it would have been better if I had died with her, said the real hero, rewatching that horrible memory. While the adult Jin was watching this, the same but only little one started screaming and crying. And after that, he immediately ran away, but the main protagonist noticed something. Because if I died with her, then I wouldn't feel guilty, he said as he saw himself, but about the same age as he was now. He kneeled as the silhouettes of people looked up at him. Jin Suho's rank 35 was showing a huge screen. Because I wouldn't need to strengthen my strength, he said, looking at that screen. I wouldn't torment myself with thoughts that I'm weak and insignificant, he said, standing in a circle of silhouettes of people. Jin Suho, said an unknown voice. At first I thought he was the best of the best, but his ranking is going down. It's because he's reached his limit. The silhouettes began to speak. Doesn't being a hunter mean being a talented person? Without talent you won't do anything, they said. I hear he doesn't want to work hard, even though he can't do anything. If I were him, I would have given up long ago. One wonders why he continues to be a hunter? They continued, looking at the slumped past Jin. Yeah, there must be something he regrets. They continued to press him. Stop it, said the original main character. What do you even know about me? I've dedicated my life to training. And this is the position I find myself in, he continued to say with aggression on his face. You have no idea how I feel, he began to shout, looking again at this monster. He was again watching this horrible scene with this monster and his mother. He ate her again, and apparently these memories would be repeated. Yes, this is it. Let anger into your heart, said the heavenly demon, looking at the pulling out his sword, the protagonist in front of the monster. If you have my power, you can easily defeat the trash monster in front of you, he continued to say. After saying that, Jin activated green magic. Do you want this to happen again? He now asked the real Jin, standing behind his back. The protagonist watching all this suddenly heard. Suho. It was his mum. Suho, and why are you? She said. Why did you let me die? Crying, she said, which was very much a ruse. Just running away like a coward was the best thing you could have done. She continued to press him until Jin didn't know what to say. Dry, come here. It's so cold in here, my son, she said as if it was a 100% ploy. Why are you resisting? Go to her quickly, said the demon, coaxing him to make a mistake. Isn't that your mother you're mourning for? Don't tell me you want to give her up a second time, he continued. And after these words Jin went to her. Now, go on now, said the sky demon, looking at the main character approaching his mother's illusion with a sword. As he approached her, the main character said, No. And in the next moment, Jin plunged his sword into his mother's illusion. What? Heavenly Demon asked, unable to believe his eyes. You made one significant mistake, said the hero, looking at his, for the second time, dying illusion of his mother. My mum would never rebuke me, he said confidently. Mum, he said, remembering her screaming at him to run away. Suho, you must leave this place, she shouted. She's not the kind of person you think she is. The hero continued to justify her. Just then, Jin shattered the celestial demon's illusion as if it were a mirror. Hey you! The hero turned to the demon. Not a good thing you're doing, playing with other people's emotions, he said while the sky demon didn't realize what was going on. So I win? The main character asked, amidst the crumbling shards of the demon's magic. How could this happen? Heavenly Demon asked, not believing his eyes. He was very weak just a moment ago. But his aura changed instantly. He looked at the cocky hero with a bluish air around him. I wonder then, he said with an exhale. I'll assume you passed that test, said the demon with a cheerful voice, turning to the hero. Then tell me. You told me that you know how to get stronger. Jin reminded the demon's words. What's the rush? There is a whole process for transferring internal energy. The demon answered him in a proud voice. Father-in-law, that means, the protagonist started to say, but he was interrupted by the demon with these words. Yes, I won't take your body. More precisely, at least for the moment, I won't be taking your body, said the heavenly demon, with a threatening face. Can I trust his words? But still, his power is the real thing, reasoned Jin, with caution on his face. If I don't fear and hesitate, there's nothing he can do to me. If that wasn't the case, he would have taken over my body, his power, a long time ago. He continued to think, preparing to give his answer. I agree, if those are your terms. But if you do something stupid, I will destroy you, still answered the demon hero. All right, my descendant, the sky demon said with a sly expression. In that case, let's see how long you can hold out, he shouted, throwing green energy at Jin. And then the main character is enveloped by the same green power that doesn't let him move. What's that? Said the main character, looking at the energy being absorbed into his hands and swirling around him. You must be honored to be able to serve me, said the heavenly demon out of nowhere. The protagonist didn't realize where he was speaking from until he noticed something. A sword was flying at him at a very high speed, which he was able to dodge with fear on his face. Breathing out in relief, he looked at the falling sword. I'll make an exception, and give you my power this time, said the demon standing behind Jin's back. I want you to start a battle with those bloody cultists, he continued to say his terms. And the next moment, the men with darkness in their eyes began to draw their weapons and run straight at the sword-wielding hero. Destroy them, said the demon. What? Said Jin with a shocked face and voice. And with one sharp movement, he chopped several of the cultists in half, releasing a stream of very strong energy. One of the cultists saw this and stopped. A message popped up in front of the protagonist. You have obtained a portion of the heavenly demon's spirit. What do you think of my power? This demon asked. What will happen on Earth? Jin asked the question. After that, he again got a message. Your body has evolved to a new level. And then a new message that the hero focused his attention on. A new skill tree has been revealed to you. You have discovered the heavenly demon martial art. They wouldn't stop coming as Jin fought off the red-suited enemies. And in the next moment, he swung his sword. He ran through the attacking cultists, destroying each one with a light swing, slashing them with his sword imbued with green energy. Unbelievable! This is the power of a heavenly demon, Jin asked himself, slashing one enemy after another. Yes, and this is only a small part of my capabilities. If you accept me, then this small part of the capabilities will eclipse before the immense power, said the demon spirit sitting in the hero's head. You think I'll succumb to your words? Said the main character, continuing to scatter cultists left and right as waves of green power finished them off. But first things first, said the protagonist in a serious and calm voice. I have to deal with all the enemies right here and now, he shouted, while opening his list of abilities. You just chose an ice spear, a message told him as waves of cultists continued to run at him. Huge ice spears sprinkled down on them from the heavens, from which the chance of survival was practically nil. But Jin himself was also moving as well, not only summoning spears, he continued to fight with his sword. You used the freeze ability. You used the ice spear ability. Messages came to him while the enemies were either frozen by the freeze or pierced by ice chunks. The protagonist was already going full out, he was already jumping on the cultists, even though they did so at first. He ran through the crowd of his enemies with great speed, after which every single one of those non-humans was destroyed by green energy and ice magic. Blood dripped from his sword, staining the floor. The hero was tired after a long battle. Your abilities aren't so bad, he said to the sky demon in his head. When I took control of his body, I should have been reborn in him. However, thought the demon, these abilities and numbers, too much for a newcomer. He continued to reason as he continued to read the hero's past. You can't do it anymore, you might die here, so I'll help you a little, said the sky demon in a calm voice. I don't need your help, replied the tired Jin, who could barely stand on his feet. Put your sword on the ground, said the demon's very serious voice, which made the main character unable to do anything about it. He did so, simply letting go of the sword, causing it to fall to the ground with a clatter. What are you doing? Jin asked him. I can't move my body, he thought. This is very dangerous. He continued to think as he watched the cultists continue to attack him. Everything in the world of Murim is protected by my hand, said the sky demon, summoning a large green flame around the hero. Watching this, the hero couldn't understand what was happening. And in the next moment, his body was taken over by the demon, changing the main character's eyes to his own. Heavenly demon, sacred art. First technique, said the demon, looking at the cultist's pathetic attempts to attack him. The heavenly demon stepped forward. After that foot tapping, a huge wave of green energy was released. Heavenly demon dominance, he said, summoning a vortex of this energy around him. And in the next moment, that vortex exploded, throwing everyone around him away with a tremendous force that no one should survive from. After pushing everyone away with incredible force, he looked at the non-flying cultists. They clearly hadn't expected such force, flying off in different directions. Sighing, Jin got out of that place before that cave crumbled. He made his way out into the fresh air, standing on the surface of the ground. Did I really do that? The protagonist asked himself, standing under the bright rays of the sun. It's not the only thing you can do with your new power. You just don't realize how huge it is, you idiot, said the sky demon, turning to Jin. Then, he said. He was interrupted again, the hero again feeling some kind of heaviness. What's going on? The power is in my body, he said in a hoarse voice, falling to his knees. Well, like I said the demon in a calm voice, watching the hero in agony. You didn't tell me about something like this, said Jin with an aggressive look on his face. No way, he said, looking at the celestial demon with a snide smile. I've been tricked, he said lastly before he passed out, continuing to look at the demon's smile, which was getting bigger and bigger. And when he lost consciousness, 3 messages flashed in front of him. You have destroyed 124 blood ghost cultists. You have obtained the inner energy of a blood cultist. Heavenly demon sacred arts skill increased. Opening his eyes, Jin couldn't realize he was sleeping on a soft bed. With a shout, he abruptly stood up. Well, you're finally awake, said the heavenly demon, looking at the hero who woke up startled. You didn't take control of my body? Jin asked, picking up the tube that led from the 4. They were in the hospital. Of course I haven't. You really think I'm nothing for disobeying my own words? The demon answered him, standing beside his bed. Of course I do, the hero told him. You've passed out, said the ghost demon. Well, he's wary and swept away. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, thought the celestial demon while listening to the main character's speech in parallel. Hey, the reason I was able to use these abilities is because you took control of my body for a while? The character clarified, looking at the demon. If I say yes, what will you do? Will you give me control of your body? The demon asked smilingly. Of course not, still asking. Jin answered him, with a face like he was tired of hearing it from him. You mean tell you what it was? I mean about my power, the sky demon clarified, looking at the serious hero who was ready to listen already. Of course, I hate to admit it, but it was really incredible and amazing. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life, said Jin, remembering that burst of the vortex that made all the crags flung in different directions. It's not even a full portion of the power of my sacred heavenly demon art, said the demon proudly. Ruler. They called me that in Jianghu, he added as Jin clenched his fist. I want to avenge my parents. And to do that I need your power, said the protagonist confidently, but also sadly. And to do that I have to destroy the blood demons and take their internal energy, right? He asked, getting up from the bed. Exactly, replied the sky demon. And you can do even better. Well, if you understand, it would be great if you obediently give your body to me, he continued to insist. What's the joke? The hero asked. Switch your brains on. I'm the only one who can use your power, said Jin smugly, pulling the 4 needle from his brush. Seeing him pluck the 4 from his hand, the demon said, I imagine it would be very interesting and entertaining to watch my stupid offspring go about his goal. Very well, if you can do it, give it a try, the sky demon continued to say as he watched the protagonist open the window. I know I'm going to die soon, but I'm not going to give up on my goal, which is revenge. Because I know how I can become strong again, thought Jin, looking up into the starry sky. My life is going to change now, he said, placing his hand on the windowsill. Because I'm not going to give up, he continued to be motivated, looking only forward. But then someone walks into his room. I heard you almost died, said an unknown girl with blue hair, while turning on the lights in the room. Hearing her, the hero turned around. You, he said with a surprised look. But you look better than I thought you would, Suho, she said. Team leader, the management team is calling, came a shout from a multi-story office building. They're asking that you check the report on the mutated gates, said the office worker, about those portals that led to Armageddon. I'll look it over, so tell them to email it to me, replied the supervisor. Supervisor, they keep asking for interviews about the new monster that just appeared, said another office worker. Sorry, this matter is not within our department's purview, he replied, walking over with a stack of business papers in his hands. Hand over all the related materials. Let's go the route of stopping all coverage of our affairs, he said, entering his office. Yes, all right. I'll prepare it, said his subordinate. We have no other battlefield but this one, added the executive. So what did the higher-ups say, and what are they even going to do? His aide asked. For the 8th time, there have been cases of a humanoid creature consuming mana from hunters, said the leader tensely. On top of everything else going on, a mutated gate has appeared. I'm sure tomorrow's news will be very interesting, he continued to say as he looked at the footage of the cultists' bloody spirits. Well, they don't have a good idea about it, so something like that, he said. I don't think so. I'm sure they didn't even realize that such hideous creatures would suddenly appear from that gate, said his colleague as he sipped his coffee. Idiots in management can't do anything right. Does a mutated gate make sense? The team leader continued to swear. I know. Surely you've heard of a mutated gate survivor? A colleague asked, turning to the chief. Survivor? The chief interjected. Exactly. One human. He came back. And this man we know very well, the colleague continued to say. Do you remember a man like Jin Suho? He asked. What? The leader asked with a shocked face. In Group D, the winner, Jin Suho, shouted the commentator, looking at the duel between the hero and the future leader. Jin Suho, he's the one who surpassed Cha Zion and became the best student of our academy. The colleague reminded who the protagonist was. Jin Suho, the leader said quietly. I was surprised too, said the colleague cheerfully. To be honest, after that information, I was at a loss for words. I also thought that maybe he owns something, he continued to say. What does this bastard even own? The head asked calmly, as if he was up to something. Maybe he's just lucky. Stop thinking about useless individuals and go do your job, he said, leaning back in his chair. Things have not been going well in your department lately, so get busy, Wisik, the chief recommended to his colleague. You and your infuriating personality, he said with a scornful look. All right, I'm out of here. How many years has it been since we graduated from the academy, and you still talk rubbish when any conversation mentions Jin Suho? Continued his colleague as he walked out of the office. Walking out of the office, the leader was in a cold sweat and turned pale from the single name. Thinking back to the protagonist, especially if he had gained some power, his heart sank into his heels. That bastard, he said, taking out a cigarette and a lighter, starting to smoke. So he's left to go and mop up the dungeons, he said with the cigarette in his mouth, not knowing what to even think about it. Cha Xian, Jean said, turning to the girl with blue hair. Look at him, still remembers my name, she said, placing a box of food on the table. Go on home. I have nothing to say to you, said the hero. I'm sorry, but I have to. My advice. Why haven't you listened to it yet? Xian asked, sitting down on a chair next to the table. I told you to stop being a hunter, since you don't have the ability or capacity to become one. How many times do I have to tell you to make you understand? She continued to say. Didn't I tell you to stop meddling in my life? He replied with a question to a question. I only speak in facts, said Xian. Go lose yourself better, said Jean with an exhale. You'll only realize it when, like that time, you foolishly find yourself on the brink of death? She asked worriedly. Just as she tried to say something, she was interrupted by the hero. Go away. Jean looked at the blushing Xian. All right, fine, you've got it, she said, getting up from her chair. I'll get lost if that's what you want, said a downcast Xian as she walked out of the room. What's going on? Who is that flashy girl? Heavenly Demon asked. You shut up too, said Jean with a very bad mood. You and your mouth, the demon started to say. At this time, Xian had already managed to leave the hospital. Did your conversation with him go well? Her driver asked her. Not really, she replied. Wouldn't it be better for you to be more honest and tell him you're worried? The driver continued to offer ideas. But I'm not the kind of person to switch, even if I say so, he continued. Please don't worry about it, said Xiong, looking out the car window. Let's go. You said the next dungeon hike would be at dawn? She clarified. Exactly. I'm already on my way, replied the driver. At this time, in his chamber, Jin began to meditate and summon green energy around him. Opening his eyes, he noticed that a message had appeared in front of him. Finally, he said, looking at the message, you have discovered the heavenly demon's sacred art, mind reading. It's only because you're learning the mind reading technique now that you're so slow. I learned it in school, said the heavenly demon proudly. No, really, shut up. I'm tired, replied the protagonist to his words. Incredible idiot. He learnt mind reading that fast? Stared the demon in horror. Even if he is my descendant, why is he? He began to say, looking at the hero shrouded in green energy. Is this the right place? Jin asked, looking at the map on his phone. This is the gate where the trainee hunters come to train. It's supposed to be a joke, said the hero indignantly. I'm sure it is. The sky demon's spirit answered him. I can smell the bad odor of the blood demon here. I'm sure he'll come here, well, or his lackeys, the demon continued to say. But I don't understand why he needs to absorb the mana of the trainee hunters? The main character asked him. I'm not interested in the reason why he does that, said the sky demon, closing his eyes. I'm not surprised, said the main character. They came to a gate where many hunters were standing. There are a lot of people here, thought Jin. I would like to confirm your identity, said the controller. Tell me your name and rank, he continued. Jin Suho. B rank, replied the hero. Excuse me? B rank? The controller asked in surprise. Do you know this is an F rank gate? He added. I have my reasons. Is there a problem? Jin asked. No, it's fine, said the F rank hunter with a tremor in his voice. We would be honored if a B rank hunter joined us, he said with worry, calling for their attention. Why would a B rank hunter come here? Can't you see he's that famous person? The crowd began to whisper. Jin Suho, it's rumored that he can work on an incredible scale. The crowd continued to talk. Are you talking about that novice hunter who couldn't succeed before? An unknown hunter said. Quiet, he might overhear. His friend stopped his speech. Sorry. Then why is he here? Asked the hunter. Isn't that a shame? Another hunter asked. He wants to regain his past reputation and show off to the novice hunters. How could a man of such great accomplishments turn into this? He continued while everyone else looked at the hero. Being a hunter is hard, said another hunter. If he didn't get into the academy as a top scorer, he could have lived quietly as a B rank hunter. It's sad, said the second one. But there's no helping it anymore, he finished. The old life will never come back. You agree, don't you? After these words, the hero, in the eyes of some hunters, became a burden. Jin waited on the sidelines for the blood cultists while the others spoke without worry. Because I hope that I will become stronger than before, said the hero. How humiliating! My descendant is stuck in the memories of the past, said the heavenly demon. I told you not to read minds without my permission, didn't I? The main character asked the demon. You just seemed pathetic, by that I couldn't help myself, he replied. You said you wanted to use my power, but yet you're worried about your past, said the sky demon. The hero fell silent with a frown on his face. Excuse me, a female voice asked him. It was a girl with brown hair. Jin didn't think anyone would approach him. What do you want from me? He asked her. Oh, she sighed, embarrassed. I hope you'll give me an autograph. She got over herself and said it anyway. From me? Interjected the hero. Yes, replied the girl, blushing. Turning round, he looked at the other hunters, who were looking at him with a scornful glance. Is that him? The lazy hunter? Why hasn't he found something better to do? The crowd continued to whisper. Why is he trying to gain respect among the new hunters? How awful, they said with the same scornful look. I don't think it would be best if you got my signature, she said. I beg your pardon? Whom do you mean? Jin asked her. Nah, just saying it's a bad idea, she shyly shouted. So what then? The hero asked again. I'm one of the survivors from the dungeon you cleaned out, she said, averting her gaze. If it wasn't for you, wrongly I would have died then. By that, he continued while the main character looked at her with a surprised face. I saved someone? I always thought I was incompetent, he thought as he looked at this girl. I'll give you an autograph later, he said. Oh, she sighed. I'll give you an autograph if you still want it after the gate sweep, he added while she wasn't sure what to do. Okay, she shouted, glowing with happiness. Thank you. Thank you for saving me then. Without stopping, she began to bow. She immediately ran to her girlfriends to tell them about this conversation. Oh my God! I'm so glad! She shouted. And it was Jin who was watching. You said that only the A rank can defeat the blood cultists, right? He asked the heavenly demon. Yes. But there are actually many monsters someday, he replied and added. The highest rank of hunters will go there is this, Jin said. C rank. That means, the hero began. Exactly, replied the demon instantly. If you don't save everyone, then they will all die, added the Neb demon. I can't break my resolve on the first day, Jin said. Good. Who's going to the dungeon? Stand here, said the woman leading the foolish people. This is C rank Hunter Kong Bungchul, you will be under his command today, she continued as she introduced the hunter. You must prove yourselves to be the best, so listen to his commands, she said. Yes, ma'am, shouted the crowd. Oh, and yes, we have a special guest, she added. B rank hunter Jin Suho, he introduced the hero. With his involvement in the sweep, I doubt you'll have a problem, the woman said as he approached the gate. Hello, Hunter Suho. Nice to meet you. Khan extended his hand to him, a smile on his face. Oh, nice to meet you too, Jin said in surprise. Another person picking a fight? He thought, because Kong squeezed his hand. Jin Suho, you're rubbish. You got that rank because of your old reputation, thought Kong. I'll prove that I can be better than this trash in this sweep. He continued to think with aggression on his face while the hero and demon read his mind. Watching this handshake, the heavenly demon didn't understand why he was doing this. What is this bastard doing? He asked to himself. Stepping into that portal, they saw a corridor in front of them. It's so dark in here. Is it going to be all right? The crowd began to worry. It'll be fine, don't worry, Khan said. It's just an F-rank gate, there's nothing dangerous here, he reassured them. Lies, said the hero in his head. Anyone can say that behind the gates of small ranks, there could be gates of the highest ranks. Is this man really a hunter? Jin continued to think. Rubbish like him talking too much. It was the same kind of footage when I ruled Murim, said the heavenly demon. Shut up, shouted the main character in a whisper. Anyway, I ended up here by accident. Nothing would change even if I tried to do something about it, he thought to himself, ducking his gaze. Okay, I can try to use it. Jin came up with a plan. I'll follow your orders since you're in charge. I think it would be a good idea if we take the vanguard and the rear each. What do you think? He asked Kong. Oh right, it's common practice, he said with worry. What is he doing? What is he trying to achieve? Kong thought. He needs me to deal with such petty things? Jin Suho, you will be my stepping stone to move up to B rank. Kong continued to make his plans. Everyone do as he says, he shouted. Remember, our enemies are just monsters. Going in the right order will be more correct. Kong began to cheerfully narrate. What kind of idiot is this? Both the hero and the demon thought at the same time. I told you to be quiet, didn't I? Said Jin, turning to the sky demon. Really? He asked. You're ready, aren't you? I'm sure you've already imagined what's possible here, said the demon. Have you figured out where they are? The hero asked. Why ask the obvious? Replied the sky demon with a question to a question. Where are they? Jin asked worriedly. Beneath us, replied the demon. And in the next moment, the ground beneath them began to break. Chaos began, everyone scattered in different directions. Everyone, run away! Shouted Kong as the red mist hiked towards the hunters. Jin Suho saved a few people, but suddenly he noticed. Kong had died because someone had punched his hand through his body. Interesting, it looks like they tricked us from the beginning, said the heavenly demon. Haha! That girl with brown hair started laughing. Apparently she was possessed by the demon. She started laughing with hysterical laughter. Jin couldn't believe his eyes. Save me! Her real consciousness began to speak. The hero in shock at such events said, What bad luck! The guy gets shot and falls to the floor and bleeds to death. The girl told her assistant to run on and hunt him down. Suddenly he sees in front of his face a fierce girl who wants to do him damage. They start fighting, and the guy successfully fights off her attacks. The guy watched the girl's movements. He knew she was a blood ghost, but since when did she become one? He remembered his buddy who had recently entered the dungeon. The girl didn't let the guy get distracted for a second, she attacked him time after time. But he still remembered his buddy and the words he'd said. This girl became unstable when she came into this place. It's like she had a monster controlling her body. He recalls his friend's question to him. Does he know anything about the dungeon? This place, it's one of the countless prisons created by blood ghosts in the Mirim's past. The girl remained stronger and stronger. This place was a mirror of the evil deeds and sins that people committed. This is where villains gather, and they all turn into ruthless monsters controlled by demons. It didn't make any sense to the guy. He was interested in what sin on earth could this girl have committed? Suddenly he realized that this girl had killed someone. That's why she was so violent. The guy was confused and he couldn't believe she did that. But the girl had a lot of energy, and she moved very fast. Suddenly the guy sees in front of his face a sword that slightly cut his face. The girl's eyes are bloodshot. She wanted to show the guy how to kill. The guy wanted to know what this girl was doing when she summoned her power. Her movements were ultra fast. The guy was left with a lot of questions. Suddenly cracks the glass and shows a notification from the system that restores some targeted memories. The system shows memories. We see a girl killing some man holding a knife in her hand. The blood was splattered all over the room. The girl smiled and said what she had killed her mother and father. She was happy to do it. Suddenly the girl saw the portrait her parents kept of her. She stood by the two corpses and looked at the portrait. She was very happy about killing her parents. She started to walk away and slipped in a pool of blood. Her parents are gone, they've all been killed. Seeing this memory sent shivers down his body. He couldn't imagine how he could do that to his parents. The guy realized that it wasn't an artificial memory. He saw it thanks to his unique ability. He felt it in his gut. The guy stood in front of the girl. He couldn't believe what had happened. Suddenly he heard a voice in his head. The voice said that the guy was feeling insecure and he was restless. The guy became stunned. An inner voice tells the guy that this girl is not only trying to hurt him, she's basically a murderer. The guy doesn't need to worry about that, he just needs to kill. The guy stood in a stupor as he heard the words to kill her. His body took the form of an unmoving statue, and the girl approached him to do the damage. The girl is one of the survivors of the cleared dungeon. If it wasn't for this guy, she would have died. This girl survived because of him, and she was very grateful. He heard the killer girl's inner voice, her soul begging him to save her from the monster that had possessed her. The guy hit the girl and she fell to the floor. He looked at her and didn't know what to do. The sword flew a few meters away from the girl, the guy's inner voice asking what is he doing. The inner voice said she tried to kill him again, and the guy didn't need to think, he just needed to kill. But the guy told the inner voice that she asked him to keep her. The guy needed strength so he wouldn't run away from the battlefield like last time. The guy wanted to find out the truth, and to do that he needed to be stronger than his past self. The spirit of the inner voice was looking at the guy, he wanted the guy to end it. The guy told his inner hair that he had the power now, he was confident in his words. He realized he could definitely survive if he killed her right now. But suddenly there's a green heart beating with hot fire. The guy couldn't believe his eyes, if he didn't kill her now he couldn't get out alive. If he doesn't kill her, he'll be ashamed of himself for the rest of his life, which he won't live long, because he'll be killed by her. The inner voice supported the guy was left to suppress pity and kill her. He told the girl to die here rather than regret it. This guy's aura turned green. If the guy can't change, he doesn't deserve to live, the guy's determination was big. The inner voice was very surprised, he asked the guy what he was going to do. He asked this because the guy hasn't even mastered the basics of the heavenly demon's divine art yet. Still, the guy is trying to put his life on the line for more than just the stranger, but the stranger will try to kill him. The girl said to shut up, she didn't want to hear those words in her direction. The guy told his inner voice that he'd handle it himself. The inner voice marveled that the guy was very enlightened, he didn't need internal help. The girl didn't want the inner voice to tell the guy what to do, she didn't want to die and tears came from her eyes. The guy standing glistening in green aura, he wasn't going to leave and he needed to finish what he started. But suddenly there's a girl who wants to kill the guy, he grabs the sword with his hand to protect himself. They hit each other, and there was an explosion. The girl recoiled from the impact. She realized that what the demon had said was true. The guy replied to her that he wasn't even familiar with the basics of the heavenly divine art of demons. The girl got angry and tried to make another attack. She should have thought more carefully about making the first move. The girl flew a short distance away, but the guy was surprised. The guy asked the girl why she was helping him, to which the girl replied, "You saw that, I'm a bad person." The guy replied that he knew. The girl cried and asked the guy about whether he had read her memory just now. He said yes. The girl asked in surprise, "Why?" The guy said he wanted to hear her story. The girl looked at the guy in surprise, she was puzzled. The guy got angry, saying he wanted to hear the story of why she had to do it, after which he would decide if she was a bad person or not. The guy ran sharply to the girl to make a point. He approached her very quickly. The girl didn't immediately realize what he wanted to do. The guy threw a punch at the girl's face. The girl landed on her feet, but the guy was behind her back before she realized it. The guy looked at the girl and realized that she could use the palm and paw technique. He was looking forward to the day he would take over her body. She tried to hit the guy, but he was stronger. The girl was almost out of strength, but she didn't realize where she had made a mistake because it was her only chance. The boy clenched his fist with thoughts of having enough strength and internal energy to keep him from killing her. The guy stopped to tell the girl that he thought she had something to learn from garbage after all. She asked him in surprise what he meant. He abruptly ran towards the girl with the words that it was definitely harder, then he struck the girl. The girl coughed up blood. The guy said only to protect then kill. The girl fell to the ground from the blow and hit her head. The girl was lying dead on the ground. The guy heard someone saying that he stole the blood ghost powers from the girl. To think that he would try something hadn't learned before. The guy checked the girl's pulse and said that he didn't know what her world was like, but it was necessary to survive in this world. He realized he was okay. The boy stared in horror into the depths of the forest. The guy summoned an iron sword and the guy's ghost appeared beside him. The guy asked himself if he felt the bastard's energy. The ghost asked the guy who he was. The guy was confused and tried to ask the ghost what he wanted from him. They were standing near the gate when suddenly there was an explosion. They were scared, and the guy was ready to fight even though he couldn't see anything. The guy noticed something unusual up ahead. To his right, he noticed some sort of red light. There was some man walking there, talking about some combination and that he would never have thought of it. This person asked the guy about whether he had accepted the teachings, even though it was too late at that point. The guy looked at the man in horror, not realizing who it was. He felt the same aura as the blood ghost, but there was some completely different aura coming from him. The guy realized it was some kind of overwhelming energy coming from that man. The ghost who was next to the guy asked the man what this ridiculous nonsense was. Meanwhile, the guy looked at the ghost in surprise. "It's a blood demon." The guy couldn't come to his senses, his eyes were filled with surprise and horror. That man was confused and asked, "Blood demon?" They stood against each other trying to figure out what to do next. The guy in his head realized that the blood demon was the eternal rival he had talked about earlier. He realized that this creature known as the beginning of the birth of the gate in this world, well, he wondered why someone like him was in a low-rank gate like this. The ghost who was next to the guy told him that this was not his original body, but the guy looked at the ghost in surprise, not understanding what he said. The ghost explained that this demon was stronger than that garbage. And it seemed to the ghost that he was here because that demon couldn't use its full power like he could. The guy couldn't believe that this wasn't the demon's original body and that there was a stronger one somewhere. The demon pondered in his head. "More than 10 times more, this blood demon is not alone, 6 of what he was Murim." The demon didn't know that he was still alive. The demon said Jin's name. The guy looked at the demon with misunderstanding. The guy asked excitedly, asking the demon if he knew him, to which the demon told him that he did. The demon said with a smirk that there was no way he would have known the only descendant of the heavenly devil. The ghost with an angry expression came closer to the demon, showing him that he knew why he had come. The ghost looked at the guy and realized it was time to get revenge on the demon, while it wasn't his original body. The guy looked at the ghost with confusion. The ghost wanted to attack the demon, but the guy decided to ask him what it meant. The guy had no answer from the ghost, but he only had time to cover his face with the tucka as the ghost began to attack the demon at the same second. The ghost was angry at the demon, and the boy stood with surprised eyes. "This is the one who gave the order to kill your mother," said the demon after subduing the ghost's attack. He didn't understand how the demon could resist such a powerful blow. The boy tried to realize the words the demon had said. The guy could not believe what the demon said. With eyes full of horror and surprise, he asked for a repeat. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to put a bark and subscribe. These you say what you like, it's very motivating. Thanks. Good luck to you.